if I'm fuckable, then a lot of people would deem me unfit to be a mom. Mothers need to be wholesome and perfect. Not to shit on my past work, but I gotta be completely honest, it's the first album of mine that I've been like, I wanna listen to my own album. Hey guys, it's Halsey, and the only reason Billboard gave me this cover is because I'm keeping Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross prisoner in my basement. Originally, I wanted to make an album that was darker, more conceptual, a reattempt of doing my debut album. I made Badlands when I was 19 and I didn't have much experience with songwriting or in life. While it was a valiant effort, it didn't quite have the depth that I thought that I could bring to a record if I reapproached the same kind of mindset. I had quite a few songs done, just really rough demos. It was all kind of coming together in this really narrative way right around the time I found out that I was pregnant. I had this kind of nightmarish, dark album and I wanted to share it with the world in a way that was really compelling and visceral. Obviously the first people I thought to call were Trent and Atticus. I had been basically poorly plagiarizing their work forever. For people who have been in the business as long as they have and been so successful, I thought maybe it was like a fresh narrative. This is a body horror album about pregnancy. Have you done that before? Someone from the label was like, you guys are label mates, we can start the conversation. And I was kind of like, I don't really want it to be some kind of corporate like, hello, would you please be interested in working with our young pop star? So I wrote them a letter and crossed my fingers that they would even respond.
We got a very eloquent letter and it was intriguing.
It was kind of that thing where people for a long time were like, well, the worst thing they could say was no. And I was like, exactly, no, that would crush me. I guess we'll never know what would have happened if they said no.
We've been kind of talking about working on Nine Inch Nails and also kind of freaked out by the pandemic and not feeling incredibly creative. I was eager for anything to kind of keep me from having to write songs myself.
Don't tell them that. Everyone's gonna be mad at me and be like, we could have gotten a Nine Inch Nails album.
Anyway, when we got this letter, it was intriguing and I thought it'd be easy just to say no. We got a few songs. And I think the original ask was, could you contribute to these to kind of help tell the story that I want to tell? We were kind of amazed that suddenly I'm leaning in and listening to the lyrics, and now I'm getting goosebumps.
The one thing that we didn't change was any lyrics or melody. So this album did exist.
I started all the original lyric and melody alone. You know, I wrote every word on the album. It was nice to like sit there with my own ability for a little bit, kind of shut out from the world and be like, wait, I'm good at this. You know what I mean? Like this is what I do. I'm a songwriter, this is what I am, I'm a poet.
We talked it over for a minute and said, hey, if you want to send us some stems, let's just see what we could do.
It was like a really validating and invigorating opportunity to get back to like the style of writing and collaborating that made me fall in love with music to begin with, and go back to like, you guys are gonna kill me for this, but like texting links of Dropboxes to my friends and being like, isn't this dope? You know, because that's what you do when you're 19. You know, you're sending it to your friend being like, isn't this cool?
The songs kind of came to life in a way that we found kind of magical. And to discover, hey, taking these songs, as much as we knew what story she was trying to tell, dressing them up on a canvas that might be able to frame them so the story is a little more dramatic. We don't know how to kind of fine-tune something, but we can overhaul. Just like this felt good to us, it felt authentic to us, and it felt fun to do these. We had a good week. And then we heard back, I love it, could you do the whole album? Sometimes having limitations on your work can be exhilarating. Sometimes it's terrible. Knowing we had to have this much done by this date meant you have to make a decision and you kind of have to hope it works, because there's not a lot of time to fix what might not work.
I came in full balls out energy and was like, hey, so can you work on the album? Can you do the whole thing? You have a couple weeks. Also, it has to be like this, and here's the narrative. There's a movie too, thanks. Also, I'm due in July, and I'll have a baby, and I won't answer the phone. Thank you. And for whatever reason, you know, they were like, yeah, that sounds chill.
It was about 6 weeks to where it has to be delivered to be turned into vinyl, to be out at the right time. We started with the ones that kind of felt like I think we could try this, you know. So the last 5 were the ones that, I'm not sure how we're gonna do this one. But we had the other pieces of the puzzle in at that point. Right off the bat, when she said, I have a story to tell, and this is a concept record, I said, lay out the songs in the order that make the narrative sense. And let's use that as a blueprint of like a script of how to make this feel like an album. We wanted the chaos of Easier Than Lying to be a jarring juxtaposition into the laid-back groove of Lilith. It was a fun riddle to try to solve.
There's a subtext in the album about this dichotomy of the Madonna and the whore. The Virgin Mary is this like perfect virgin who also gives birth, and she's never been fucked, and she's amazing, and she never does anything wrong. So much of popularity as a personality rather than as an artist has to do with being fuckable. You know, the idea that people think that they could sleep with you or they wouldn't want to. I was pretty young for most of my peers to decide to get pregnant. A lot of people historically wait a little bit longer. I knew there was going to be some like kind of initial judgment about that, and I wondered how it was going to affect my career, because if I'm fuckable, then a lot of people would deem me unfit to be a mom. Mothers need to be wholesome and perfect, and if I have sexual autonomy or any kind of past or any kind of temper or transgression, you know, all those things apparently affect my ability to parent. And then, you know, the reverse of that is what actually ended up happening was a lot of my fans' first reaction was, is she going to get boring now? When people first saw the press release about the record and I said it was about pregnancy, they were like, oh, there's gonna be nothing for me here. There's gonna be nothing for me in this. It was important to reveal the artwork at the Met because I wanted to take the viewer through this journey of all these other depictions of the Madonna and Child. The album cover is based off of a Jean Fouquet painting. He modeled the Virgin after Agnes Sorel, who was a mistress and who often would walk around with one breast exposed for no other reason simply than she just felt like it, which is super badass. She had all her dresses tailored to show off her favorite boob. But I liked the idea of the depiction of the Virgin as a whore, and I knew what everyone was going to say, so I just got ahead of it and said it myself with the album cover. I was going through one of the most transformative things that a human being can possibly experience on every level, emotionally, physically, socially, spiritually, whatever. Like, you know, I was pregnant. I was really happy, but I was also super scared and super anxious and paranoid. As much as my days were filled with joy and dreams of, you know, a little naked baby on a cotton cloud, they were also full of like terror that something was gonna go wrong and that like my body didn't feel like mine anymore and all of this, you know? So like I really just kind of had to exercise that. Exercise with an O, not an E, you know, get that demon out of me and be, not the baby wasn't a demon, but get the demon of, you know, paranoia out of me and put it on paper. The songwriting became more important. I owed more to it. It wasn't as like flippant. There's a greater sense of like respect I owed to my experience.
Her songs seem to come from a place of pain or catharsis, and it has an authenticity to it that you can pick up on. Aside from the way it sounds or the personality behind it, generally comes down to, I believe this person, or this kind of feels like bullshit. We got that from Halsey. It's coming from a place where I believe what you're saying, and you sell it in a way that I'm connected to it, you know, and we felt our job on this record was simply to just put a nice frame around it so that it helps achieve that message.
It does never get old hearing that. Sometimes the guys would send me a record and they'd be like, is this too crazy? And I'd be like, make it crazier. You know what I mean? Which was really fun, and I think that me being willing to participate fully and not be worried about the outcome hopefully inspired all three of us to like really try stuff that we maybe wouldn't have tried before. They really, really understood when I say rage, I want rage. And when I say desperation, I mean desperation. There were parts of it that I didn't even know could sound or be or do what they did, and you guys brought them out in a way that made me like, holy shit, like that's me? I still feel that way. Every single time I listen to an album, I'm like, this is my fucking album? Not to shit on my past work, but I gotta be completely honest, it's the first album of mine that I've been like, I wanna listen to my own album.
We didn't have the time to get to know each other that well before it started. Hey, we're gonna have to skip a few steps of being cordial, and if something sucks, just say it sucks.
Yeah.
Because we're not that precious about things. It was generally and genuinely a let's even go further that way.
And I was, like truly terrified of them sending something that I hated and having to be like, this is terrible. A lot of my taste and my preferences come from listening to their work. Luckily for me, which is so rare, but they got it right the first time, almost every single time. Everything that you guys have touched has become cool. Maybe cool is not the right word. Like,
I don't know. That's the right word.
Cool element to it that didn't exist in its original form.
Normally in the role of a producer, as much as we would know what to do, it would be dissecting lyrics, challenging you on certain things, you know, even if the point of it is to prove that what you did was right, you know. But there wasn't any of that, because upon reflection, I'd make notes and then think, oh, I'll talk to her about this and see. But the next day I'd look and think, no, that's actually kind of better than what I'm suggesting to even think about. So let's not fuck with it, you know, 'cause it's good, you know.
We kept all of the original vocals too.
Yeah.
That were kind of just me like riffing in the booth, and like they were like a moment.
It wasn't really a production job. It was a collaboration job. We're proud of what we did. This is as much a record we feel ownership to and in a authentic belief in as any of the records we've done, you know. So we thank you for the opportunity.
You know, sometimes in life, everything is just right. I'm not saying that happens all the time or often, but this is one of those things, you can tell when something is right. It's just organically what it is.
I obviously haven't been in the business like quite as long, but being in like the pop realm, they can really cut you down fast, you know? You're being put in this position where like you're expected to compromise for commercial viability or whatever else.
Music for me personally is something that speaks to me. I don't pay that much attention to the business side of it. To come along and work with Halsey, initially we were a little intimidated about, is it a pop star, and does that mean there's big business affiliated with it and it has to kind of feel a certain way, and we don't want to fuck that up.
You know, for me, obviously, I'm slightly older than Ashley, and I can listen to the album and get lost on an emotional level, and I think ultimately that's what we're trying to do, communicate feeling and emotion.
I think her career is altered in a good way, because I think what matters is good music.
The record is outstanding, and I'm really proud of what we've done. I think the most important thing to me is that it continues to have a life and continues to grow and kind of burns and burrows slowly with the audience instead of coming in fast and burning out just as fast like most records seem to do these days. Longevity can't be manufactured. It's gotta be something real that people invest themselves in. When I concern myself with awards, I think that it stops me from making the best art that I possibly can. Should the album be recognized for what it is, which is a singular piece of art and piece of work and a once-in-a-generation collaboration between very different artists and very similar people, that would be nice. Yeah. Trent and Atticus are far more experienced and have far more agency to criticize my work than any other critic. That was the only validation I was looking for, you know, was that, and hoping the fans would take a chance on something that doesn't sound like my usual music.
With the advent of social media, there's an unlimited faucet of people telling you everything you do sucks. It takes a lot of courage as an artist to put yourself out there. You're not just making product, it's art. It's going to resonate with some people, it's not going to resonate with others. Some people will like it for the right reasons, some people won't. It is what it is. It's nice to be recognized for your efforts. It's not anything more than that.
The one thing I can guarantee you is that there was no corner cut. There was no stone left unturned. This was absolutely the best we could possibly do at that moment in our lives as three people. If that happens to go on and win an award, great. If it doesn't, it's not going to make me lose any sleep.
I did the thing I wanted to do, make a record with Trent and Atticus. I'm glad we got to make this album when we did, because being a mother to my son makes being a musician seem pretty boring. Something really amazing happened when I have my son, which is the absolute glorious eradication and death of my ego. Nothing matters when I go home to him because like he thinks I'm perfect and great and everything. That's gonna be a whole other beast to tackle is, parental guilt and, that's gonna be
Just beginning.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole other thing to tackle, but for the time being, I'm kind of in bliss about it. The beauty of that is that it means I'm gonna create when I want to, not because I feel like I have to. Hopefully that means that whatever I make is gonna be something that I'm just burning to get out there, because the only expectation I have for myself is to be a really good mom, and the rest will fall into place around that. The last song on Manic has a lyric that says, "Don't meet your heroes, they're all fucking weirdos." Thank God that this experience has proven me wrong. I think Trent and Atticus are amazing people.
It was one of those rare things where we really had a great experience doing it, and we came out the other end changed in a good way, and inspired and kind of revitalized, and glad that we said yes, which is against our nature.
I feel incredibly lucky that all of the best things that have ever happened to me in the same year, between this collaboration, this record, my child. I really don't know how I'm gonna beat this. I guess it's all downhill from here.
The end.
Interview's done.